Here I'm going to do some examples of factoring difference of squares. First, a difference means that there will be a minus between your two terms. If there is a plus in between, that would be called a sum of squares, which we can't factor. Next, what exactly is a square? An example of a square would be 4x squared. 4x squared is 2x times 2x. If you can break up your term as a product of two identical terms, it's a square. Another example of a square would be a 9. 9 is 3 times 3. Here's an example of a non-square, like a 7. I can't do anything with a 7 to make it a product of one thing times itself. So it doesn't count. 7 times 1, that's the only way that doesn't count as a square. Anytime you do a factoring question, whether it's a difference of square question, it's a perfect square trinomial, complex trinomial, simple trinomial, it doesn't matter. You should always look for a common factor. Here, when I look at my two terms, there is no common factor, but you should always check even if there isn't any before you do other factoring techniques. So no common factor, I can then move on to factoring this as a difference of squares. There's a minus, so maybe this is a difference of squares. 4x squared, as I explained, is 2x times 2x. And then to get 81, I could do 9 times 9. So 81 is also a square. And then to get the minus here, to get negative 81, I need negative 9 times positive 9. So there is the factored form. Let's go on to question B. Again, I see a minus, so I think to myself, maybe this is a difference of squares. But before I do that, I check to see if there's a common factor between the two terms. There's nothing divisible by both terms that they have in common, so there is no common factor. So now we write two factors. To get 25, is it a square? Yes, it is. 5 times 5 gives me 25. The last term, 36x squared. 36, I can get that with 6 times 6. And then x squared, I can get it with x times x. So 6x times 6x gives me 36x squared. Then to get the negative on the 36, I just need a plus and a minus. So I did this on purpose. If you have a minus here, you could have a minus times a plus, or it could be a plus times a minus. It doesn't matter which bracket you put the plus. So this is the factored form of this expression. Now, this second example might look a bit different to you because you might be used to seeing x in the first term. But there are difference of squares questions like this one where the first term doesn't have an x. So it's important that you start with factoring the first term as the first term of each of your brackets. The next two examples, we're going to do two more difference of squares, but this time I will have a common factor in them. Let's look at question C. Like I said, always check for a common factor. That's the proper way to factor anything. I look at these two terms. They're both divisible by 2. So I can put a 2 here. And now I think to myself, 2 times what is going to give me 2x squared? 2 times x squared. 2 times what is going to give me negative 2? That'll be negative 1. So here we go. This is the start of the process. I do a common factor. After I take out the factor of 2, now I think, is this a difference of squares? I do see a minus, so there's the difference there. And let's see if both terms are a square. X squared is x multiplied by x. 1 is 1 times 1. So this will be a difference of squares. One bracket with a minus, one bracket with a plus. There we go. So I factored this completely. This one has 2 steps involved, common factor, and then the brackets converts to a difference of squares. If you followed so far, I would recommend you pause the video, try question D on your own, and then play it, see if you got the right answer. Okay, let's continue. Looking at the two terms, I see that 7 and 28 are both divisible by 7. But there's something else too. Both terms have an x. So I'm going to common factor an x. Okay, 7x times what gives you 7x to the 3? 7x times x squared would do that. And then 7x times what gives you negative 28x. I have an x already, so I just need to multiply 7 by negative 4 to make it negative 28. So there is the first part of the question, looking for a common factor. So 7x, and now the two brackets. X squared is x times x. 4 is 2 times 2. And then one bracket with a plus, one with a minus. There we go. 4 examples for factoring a difference of squares.